One test of the quality of a fashion show is what sticks. There's a sensory overload component in spending several weeks on the road, seeing clothes upon clothes every hour on the hour. And even for the most dedicated scrutinizers, much of it comes and then goes. Struts and frets are upon. The London men's shows are now receding in the rearview mirror, but as they do, one has stayed in my head. It was the small presentation, only the second, by Grace Wales Bonner, a recent BA graduate of Central St. Martin's, who is one of the designers sponsored by the Emerging Talent Showcase Fashion East. She approached her presentation more like an academic than a designer, inspired by the life of Malik Ambar, a 17th-century Ethiopian who was a former slave, an Ethiopian born in Harar, sold as a child by his parents due to poverty. He was eventually brought to India and remained enslaved by the people that bought him. Nevertheless, in time he created an independent army that had up to 1,500 men. This army resided in the Deccan region and was hired by many. Lorca rose to become a very popular prime minister of the Ahmadnagar Sultanate, showing his administrative insight in various fields. Malik is also regarded as a pioneer in guerrilla warfare in the Deccan region. He is credited with having carried out a systematic revenue settlement of major portions of the Deccan, which formed the basis for many subsequent settlements. He died in 1626. He is a figure of veneration to the Siddhis of Gujarat. He humbled the might of the Mughals and Adil Shah of Bijapur and raised the falling status of the Nizam Shah. Malik Ambar was born in the city of Al-Hura, in a Habshi tribe of Maya, the capital of the Adil Sultanate, in modern eastern Ethiopia. However, some sources mention the Ethiopian town of Harar as his birthplace. Both the Solomonic dynasty and the Adil Sultanate were devastated after 2 decades of war with each other. According to the future Hatay Adil Shahi, Malik Ambar, then known as Shambhu or Shambu, was sold into slavery by his parents. He ended up in Al-Muqa in Yemen, where he was sold again for 20 ducats and was taken to the slave market in Baghdad, where he was sold a 3rd time to the Qadi al-Qudat of Mecca, and again in Baghdad to Mir Qasim al-Baghdadi, who eventually took him to south-central India. A noted historian, Dr. Beni Prasad, notes, the chief importance of the Deccan campaigns of the Mughals lies in the opportunities of military training and political power which they afforded to the Marathas. Malik Ambar, who was a great master of the art of guerrilla warfare as Shiva himself, stands as the head of the builders of the Maratha nationality. His primary object was to serve the interest of his own master, but unconsciously he nourished into strength a power which more than avenged the injuries of the south and the northern power. Malik Ambar cherished strong love and ability for architecture. Aurangabad was Ambar's architectural achievement and creation. Malik Ambar, the founder of the city, was always referred to by harsh names by Sultan Jahangir. In his memoirs he never mentions his name without prefixing epithets like wretch, cursed fellow, Habshi, Ambar Siari, Black Ambar, and Ambar Doctor. Some historians believe that those words came out of frustration as Malik Ambar had resisted the powerful Mughals and kept them away from Deccan. Ms. Wales Bonner learned of his history, she said, at an exhibition at the New York Public Library SCHOMBURG Center for Research in Black Culture in Harlem, Africans in India, from slaves to generals and rulers. That's a lot of build-up for a static presentation of clothes, and those who spend a lot of time in the fashion world learn to be skeptical of long-winded inspirations. But in this case, the backstory lent a faded resonance to the collection. In keeping with the story, Ms. Wales Bonner showed the clothes on exclusively black and South Asian models, loose linen trousers and tight jackets in a vaguely Indian style. White top-stitched jeans and worn-looking suiting hinting at found clothing in African markets. She had just returned from a research trip to Senegal, and her soundtrack by James William Blades was a cacophonous assemblage based in part on recordings she had made in the markets of Dhaka. Ms. Wales Bonner said, "The African and Indian influences played off one another in subtle ways, like the echo of the relaxed shapes and the parceled-out flourishes of luxury, the knotted silk scarves or pieces in crushed velvet. The clothes didn't look fashionable, at least not in the way of much of what otherwise parades down the runway. Instead they had a patina and time-worn elegance." James Baldwin, likewise an elegant outsider, was another presiding genius. Yet they were not costumes, Despite Ms. Wales Bonner's bare bones but effective stagecraft, you could see them being bought and worn. She already counts opening ceremony, fills and wild style in jellies among her stockists. With any luck, one will be smart enough to give her some space and set her own scene.